You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win!
Hosing! Score!
To Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Verhaeghe does it again! 52.1 seconds to go. Do you love it, Niagara?
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the relaunch of the Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. I'm your host, Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at bcaputo_AGM. And right underneath me on the new video layout is my co-host, Kyle Aikett. You can follow him on Twitter at just Kyle51. Kyle, how's it going down there?
Oh, it's going good. It's going down here, Brandon. Can you hear me up? Can you hear me up there?
Yeah, perfect. So, guys, Brand new layout, brand new setup for me. The TV is going to be working at some point when I figure out what's going on with that. But guys, relaunch here of the Armchair GM Sports Network. Really excited to get going here. And for our first episode, it was only fitting that the Dog Pound Podcast would start us off here. It's been a few weeks, so thank you very much to everybody that waited patiently for our next episode. And again, not the greatest results for the Niagara IceDogs right now, but we've got a jam-packed episode of other features for you guys, including we had a chat with Owen Flores just last week before he was able to come back from injury. So he's now obviously playing goaltender again, but we spoke to him last week about coming back to the lineup. So we've got that. We've also got the wrap-up with head coach Ryan Kuwabara, as we do every week on this show. And we've got a special feature with Ted Lehman's conversation with IceDogs head scout Adam Henrich. So that'll be a really interesting discussion to hear what he had to say. Some very good thoughts on Kevin He and the upcoming draft class as well. So you're not going to want to miss that part of the show. And then, as always, this week in IceDogs history, which is a staple here on the show. Kyle, again, it's been a couple of weeks here, so let's get into, the IceDogs, as far as the results go. We know what the standings hold for them right now. But what have you been seeing from the team in the last little while that gives you some encouragement that they're going in the right direction?
I mean, that's what you got to that's what you have to look at, right? I know at this point of the year, the way the team record shows, you kind of have to try to find the positive where there's obviously the lingering negatives, right? The team's in last place in the OHL. Haven't hit double digits in the win column yet, and it's been a really rough slide in a rough couple of games, to say the least. So you try to find what you can positively out of, what everyone should be doing is finding the positive things out of this kind of streak. Yeah, you can have your opinions on the losing streak, but I wouldn't, spend every day living in negativity about this team. They're trying, obviously, as we even saw last night when they were facing the Barrie Colts. Barrie Colts are a very, very good team right now. It wasn't from lack of effort, though. The team still showed up. I think they showed up from start to finish last night. It's just they ran into a really good Barrie team who have a really good lineup and a very good lineup that has a lot of chemistry and that ran its course on the IceDogs. But I guess some of the positive notes would be obviously would be the development of the younger players in this team, right? And what you're seeing for the future of this team going into next year. You see the glimpse of it everywhere, from the Zachary Lavoies, the Kevin Hees, the Alex Asadorian, to the development of Andrew of Wysick since the beginning of the year, like as we saw in training camp up till now, and then Owen Flores, really. I mean, we got him in a trade and didn't really know much about him coming from the trade. And look, he's kind of showed up and battled for that spot alongside with Rosenzweig in the goaltending position. So a lot of glimpse of development from a lot of the younger kids. I mean, I'm going to pick the homer pick here, but Kevin He has been an absolute stud of a rookie this year, and basically has proven to not only the Ice Dogs how much of a good pick that was in the second round, but like to the rest of the OHL that he probably should have gone in the first round. And so we were lucky enough to select him in the second round, and he's having a very good rookie campaign. I cannot wait for the development of Kevin He, because if he develops over the offseason and works on the parts of his game that need improving, he's going to be one exceptional player in the OHL next year. So I guess all in all, it's defining the positives in the player development, I guess I could say, for me right now.
Yeah, and again, they got that win in Kingston, so they got off the schneid, so that was big for them, just for their confidence and the morale. Just, it's not easy being around just, losing games consistently and not getting the instant gratification of winning hockey games. And I know everybody wants that these days, where, we want we want to have the results right away, but it's just, with this team, it's going to take some time, because we clearly know
like
where they're at right now.
It's like every fan base. Like I take example of like you watch your favorite NHL team, right? Could be like the era like that Chicago went through. They were going through an era that they were making the Stanley Cup playoffs every year, battling for the cup every year. Now look, right? They're going through that rebuild era. Like everyone's kind of used to, and it's fine to think this way. Everyone's kind of used to the era that the Ice Dogs went through when they were making the playoffs constantly, battling for the OHL Cup constantly, having these great runs. But now, like, as those runs now have come to an end, and we kind of use the shelf in a way to build those teams. It happens to a lot of teams, and it happens to a lot of teams in the OHL. They go through that little bit of a rebuild. Yeah, the Ice Dogs are doing it in a, I guess you can say, unconventional way this year compared to what a lot of other OHL teams do, and a lot of people use that comparison. But it's going to happen. And I mean, it's not like we've got. I mean, last year was a rough year. Obviously, with the change of management and how they want to change a team, you'd think that maybe after 1 year of a rough year, they would start the year after patching things up. But really, you couldn't have had that expectation going into this year. You could have had expectation that it could be better than last year. Yeah, it didn't happen that way, but it's technically, this is, again, we've said it before in the show. Sound like a freaking broken record here. It's the first year with this organization figuring things out and figuring out the team that they want and putting their
stamp,
putting their layout on this team. So Ryan Kuwabara hasn't even been here for a full season, so he's still even working with the kids implementing his system. Right, that's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to be a tough ride. Like, I'm going to quote Mike Babcock: "Pains ahead," But it's I think you just have to have a lot of patience, right? I think there's still a lot of people that have that mentality that things are going to be changed overnight, snap of the fingers, and we're going to be back to that OHL Cup contending team. Just going to have a little bit of patience. And again, like we just talked about in the beginning of the show, finding the positives where there is. And there is positives in this team while they're going through this streak.
Yeah, and I know we can talk about next year's lineup, but the He, Asadorian, and Lavoie trio, that really gets you excited for next year, because all three of those guys will be back. And it looks like, that is something for them to build around on the forward group. They're going to be losing some D-men, overagers that are going to be leaving. Well, you don't know what's going on with the D-core fully yet. You would think that they're coming in with 2 top 5 picks, most likely. One of them will be a defenseman if he steps right in and is able to play right away, to be OHL ready, even as a young player. But again, it just you can start to pick and see areas that this team that you can be excited for next season.
Yeah, and like you said, that line of He, Asadorian, and Lavoie, whew, are they ever that firecracker line? And they look good together, and they're building instant chemistry together. That's going to be a very dominant line. Again, not only Kevin He, but the other two, Asadorian and Lavoie. These players develop over the offseason and gain more of that chemistry, and they kind of stick to that line. That could be a very dangerous scoring line for the Ice Dogs going into next year, alongside other lines. Like we've seen not maybe production-wise, but the O'Flaherty, Podolou, and Klein line, that sandpaper line we like to call them, that is that your grit, your third line grit line that's going to go into the corners and beat up the team, right? And be that grindy kind of line. They've shown a lot of glimpse of having a lot of that same chemistry as well. So if you got at this point in the year where you are in the standings and you're trying to look for positivity, look at those two things right there, those two lines that could be dominant lines for the Ice Dogs going into next year.
Yeah, and we'll get into it with head scout Adam Henrich. He really talks highly of Kevin He, and has quite the prediction for him going forward in his OHL career. So you're stay tuned for that in segment 2.
I'll probably believe him.
Yeah, it gives some great insight there.
Yet.
As a former NHL draft pick himself, and now is transition to scouting. So we're really looking forward to having him on. And as we get closer to the draft, I look forward to having, if we're able to get more scouts on for the Ice Dogs, and then obviously draft day, hopefully we'll have a special for that. But again, that'll be closer to the draft, which the OHL draft is always funny to me that it's in the middle of playoffs. So at least if you're an Ice Dog, if you're the Ice Dogs, at least, you kind of get to focus on just the draft this year. And again, I think it's an important draft for them too, because it's the first one, really the first one for this new regime, and they really have to get it right with 2 top 5 picks and 6 picks in the top 80. Like, you can be building your core of your franchise for years to come from this upcoming draft, so they know how important this is, and they want to make sure they get it right, and all the scouts are doing all they can to make sure that they're honing in on the top prospects available.
Yeah, and like Darren Dodler said in recent interviews, that he really wants to build this team out of the draft and be one of those OHL teams that really builds a winning team out of the draft instead of trading for players to bring in, right? And it's funny that was said in what's happened this year, but going into the future with this team, if he really wants to do that, this would be the draft to do that, being a decent OHL draft coming up with the amount of picks you have in the top 80. They could really build what he's trying to implement into this team with this coming draft, especially even 2 top 5 picks. If you can get those 2 top 5 picks, I know it's tough to say if they can commit to playing Niagara 2, you have a very good lineup for the future with this team. And with the rookies that are here now, with Kevin He and having the promising rookie season that he had, and then you're going to have 2 top 5 picks come in who could be instantly in your lineup and making an impact in your lineup. The Ice Dogs have a really bright future. And it's something to get excited for. And you said scouts. Speaking of scouts, shout out to our number 1 fan, Brian Drury, one of our number 1 fans. We have many number 1 fans, I think, in the podcast. Brian Drury, because we know he's listening.
What do we got? Like 1A, 1B? Like, what are we doing here?
I think so. I don't know. It'll be fighting between him and BCat. So that's the number 1 fan fight. BCat's the OG though. He was the original number 1 fan. So. That'll be tough. But you saw he put that Simpsons gif on the show tweet today.
The show is back.
You gotta love that, being a Simpsons fanatic yourself.
Oh yeah, I do love it. And something else that I love, and I know that you love, we're going to transition from the future back in time a little bit as we get the next installment of This Week in Ice Dogs History with the radio voice of the Niagara Ice Dogs, Ted Lehman, on Country 89. So Ted, what do you got for us this week for Ice Dogs history?
Time for another edition of This Week in Ice Dogs History. I am Ted Lehman. Birthdays really front and center in the middle of February. Celebrating on the 15th of the month, he celebrates a 32nd birthday. He used a very successful OHL career to move on to a very successful business career. Happy 32nd to Johnson Andrews on Wednesday the 15th. Celebrating on the 18th, Jack Studnicka is having a birthday, enjoying his time in the NHL. He's turning 24. A couple of 33-year-olds nearer to the end of the month. On the 20th, Family Day birthday for Thomas Minnup. He was here with the Ice Dogs for a short time. And also 33, another local product, in Kyle Steckley. He'll celebrate on the 21st. One of those heart and soul, take anybody on player you got to have in a successful team. The one historical event, and it's a big one, took place on the 18th of February back in the year 2012, when in just his 36th game of the year, Mark Vizentine would record a 3-0 shutout up north in Sault Ste. Marie blanking the Greyhounds on 21 shots. What made it notable? It would be his 10th shutout of the year. 10 shutouts in 36 games. Broke a record that had stood since 1949-1950 in the OHL. Mark Byzantine noted for all the physical tools and no shortage of confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously we've set expectations and goals at both levels with Sean Burke and Ben Vanderklok, and we obviously have high expectations for myself, and I make my goals really high.
11 years ago, they were blanking them all over the place when the Ice Dogs came to town, and of course, back at the Jack, Mark Byzantine, the OHL's shutout record on this day in Ice Dogs history. Enjoy. I'm Ted Lehman.
Mark Byzantine. We even got Mark Byzantine audio, Kyle, this week from Ted. So
God, it's vintage audio right there. God, does he sound ever young in that audio clip? But yeah, back when 10 shutouts, man. Oh my God.
Yeah,
and he was a stud. Mark Byzantine. I remember watching those games back in the day, and even at the Jack, he was a absolute stud. Mark Byzantine, and it's too bad because I thought for sure that he was gonna graduate. Man, he made the World Juniors Team Canada. I thought he was gonna graduate into the NHL and have a successful NHL career. But goalies are one of those tough positions in the NHL. Extremely tough positions to get it right on.
And if you're not in a good organization, he was with Arizona at the time, and I don't know what they were doing with their goaltending, but it just sometimes doesn't work out. And again, unfortunately for Mark Byzantine, he was a part of that Canada team that had, that epic collapse against Russia in the third period. And I think that really, I'm sure that didn't help as far as, especially for goaltending. That position more than any is all mental, right? And I'm sure trying to get over something like that, and even, going to the pro level and playing in the American Hockey League, it just sometimes doesn't work out. But to me, him and Alex Nedeljkovic, 1-2 best Ice Dogs goalies of all time. Byzantine had the longer resume. Nedeljkovic is only here for, that one miracle season there. But it's just Mark Byzantine still one of the all-time greats in the net for the Ice Dogs that will always be remembered.
100%.
So speaking of goaltending, let's cut from this week in Ice Dogs history to current goaltending and our quick interview last week with Ice Dogs returning goaltender Owen Flores. And again, this was last week, his first time on the show since he's been traded from London. And again, we're starting to open up to some London guys here with Keener and Flores, but just talking about his time here and getting back in the lineup, which, again, spoiler alert, he's back in the lineup now. But at the time of recording this, he was just about to come back and was really excited about it. So here's goaltender Owen Flores. Joined by Ice Dogs goaltender Owen Flores. Owen, thanks for coming on the show for the first time. I know you've been here for a couple months, but we haven't been able to get you on the podcast yet. I know you're anxious to get back in the lineup, and by the time this episode gets released, you may or may not be back in the lineup, but can you just talk about the process of being able to work your way back? It looked like a scary play, and luckily it wasn't as serious of an injury as it looked. So how have you been really trying to work through the rehab process?
Yeah, it's always tough getting injured through the season, especially where we are at right now, midway through. So it was tough, but I'm thankful to have the staff and the trainers we have here today to be able to help me recover faster, and with the help of different chiropractors. It's a long process, but very thankful to have the guys we have.
And you've been in Niagara now for, about half a season. So how have you kind of felt about coming to Niagara, coming over from London, a great program, but getting more of an opportunity here, more playing time, and really getting settled in? When did you really find that you felt like you were getting in your groove here in Niagara and, trying to help this rebuilding team and this young team, get better?
Yeah, coming from London, didn't play very much, 23 games all last year. So being able to come in and kind of play more games, get the opportunities, kind of took a little bit to adjust, just not being used to the pace, not playing that much last year, and seeing different guys. Because of COVID year, we only played certain teams, so being able to come over and play everyone now is it's a better experience, and it's definitely made me a lot better. Speaking of experience, you were at Detroit Red Wings development camp in the past. Just what did you learn from that, and what did you try to take from that, and maybe from some of the coaching staff there, or just being around a professional NHL organization to try to see what it would take for you to get to that next level? Yeah, Nedeljkovic was there along with Huso and some other guys, so being able to watch them prepare in the gym, off the ice, on the ice, seeing them work hard and in the gym and everything. It's something you really will never forget. It's a great experience. It's a great learning experience to, seeing what they have, seeing what they bring to the table. Just the level of coaching they have and players that they're bringing in is unbelievable. Everyone from all over the world, Europe, Sweden, everywhere. So being able to kind of live that experience and know what it's like to be in NHL is something you'll never be able to see unless you experience it.
Absolutely, and Alex Nedeljkovic, being a legendary Niagara IceDogs goaltender, really stole it for them in 2016 to get them to the OHL final, losing to your former team, the London Knights. So it's been nice to see you change your goalie gear from green to red. I know IceDog fans are happy about that. Lastly, what are some goaltenders that you really looked up to, growing up, or even as you're continuing on with your career, that you've really tried to mold your game after, or that you really looked up to as a young goaltender, growing up?
Yeah, I've looked up to many guys like Carey Price, Mika Kiprusoff I think was a big one I used to watch, but now it's kind of a mixture, trying to get the agility and play like Saros and DeSmith, like some of the smaller goalies, but also take the size with like Demko and some of the bigger guys in the league. So it's just bits and pieces from every goalie.
Right. And last question. The team hasn't been playing up to standard this year, and getting back in the lineup. I know you're anxious to get back playing. Just what is kind of the mentality of the guys, for the rest of the season, trying to battle through, and the playoffs. It seems a little bleak right now, but what are just the goals, and how do you guys keep up beat, in the locker room despite the team not playing up to where you guys expect?
Yeah, it's always good to just stay positive. Nothing's ever set and done. We still have 20 or so games left, so anything's possible. So it's more of just stay in the moment and don't worry about what can happen in the future. And just stay in the moment and work hard, and you never know, things can happen.
IceDogs goaltender Owen Flores, thanks so much for doing this. Best of luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk again.
Thank you.
Kyle, good thoughts there from Owen Flores, first time on the show. I like his goaltender the comparisons there. Kiprusoff, Demko, Casey DeSmith. There was a lot to dissect there, but what did you think of Owen Flores?
Well-spoken individual, well-spoken kid. You can usually tell when someone's like nervous for an interview, really hasn't had a lot of experience with interviews, but Flo kind of was very, very easy to talk to from what I gather when you interviewed him. Very well-spoken individual. He had a lot to say. I like that he wants to always improve on his game. And modeling, though, that still throws me in a loop. He said Mika Kiprusoff, like that.
That's a name.
I totally
right
forgot even about him. Like, I'm thinking about goalies he's gonna name, like Carey Price, obviously, and I'm thinking like Vasilevsky. I know he mentioned Saros too, but Mika Kiprusoff threw me in a loop, and that is a name from the past, a blast from the past, a very good goaltender. I'm not even sitting here making fun of that. Like, he was part of the Calgary Flames early 2000s Stanley Cup runs. Man, he was a very, very good goaltender. So for him to mention that, he said he modeled his game, takes bits and pieces from all these different goalies and tries to model it in his game is really cool as well to learn.
Yeah, for sure. I think he needs to teach Juan Copeland a few things about doing interviews because, ooh, sorry, Juan.
Yeah, if you're even listening, he probably's not listening.
Probably not, but we're gonna get him for a special feature, hopefully by the end of the year, doing something cool on the ice. But no, good stuff from Owen Flores. And again, as we're recording this last night, just what a performance from Owen Flores, and the goalies have really stood up despite the guys in front of them, not being able to get the results and giving up a ton of shots. I think the one thing that you can say is that Rosenzweig and Flores have definitely, been up for the task despite, being peppered on a nightly basis here.
Yeah, I was going to say the term in hockey would be getting peppered, and that's to say the least. Stopping 60 shots or even close to, like, between 55 and 65 shots stops for a goaltender is a busy night. And especially in the OHL. People compare it to like men's league and stuff. It's like, it's not. You can't compare it to men's league. This is the OHL. Stopping that many shots in the OHL, especially like a good team like Barrie and other teams that we face.
Peterborough, 61
that's
saves.
Astonishing that the score wasn't 10 digits plus. So Flores was a busy guy last night, and you know what? Even through the 5-2 loss last night, he showed a lot of times that he kept the IceDogs in it, and he's going to be a really good goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, Rosenzweig broke the record previously held by Stephen Dillon of 56 saves. He made 61, and then Owen Flores last night tied that Stephen Dillon record with 56 saves. So just a lot of shots given up right now, but we'll get Ryan Kuwabara's thoughts there in the second segment of today's show. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to Ryan Kuwabara about what his thoughts on the team the last little bit, and then we're going to get you to that feature interview with the IceDogs head scout, Adam Henrich, which with Ted Lehman, which is very, very interesting going looking ahead to the upcoming OHL draft. So stay right here. We're right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points the selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
Hey, this is Landon Cato.
Hey, it's Juan Copeland. This is Kevin Hean, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast,
The official podcast
of the Niagara IceDogs.
Yes, welcome back to segment 2 of today's Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Guys, if you're enjoying the video version of the podcast, hit that like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell icon for all updates on video versions of our podcast that get released here on the network. A lot more content coming to you guys here in the near future with the relaunch. A lot of behind-the-scenes work to get the video layouts ready to go. And again, stay tuned for that. Make sure you're following us at Dog Pound Podcast for all updates on our IceDogs coverage. And you can like us on Facebook and Instagram as well by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. So with that said, Kyle, I've been teasing it all show here. So let's quickly get our interview with Ryan Kuwabara, wrap up from the last couple of weeks, and then we're gonna get the chat with Adam Henrich. So here's Ryan Kuwabara last night, just kind of recapping the last couple of weeks because we haven't recorded an episode. So just his thoughts on how the last couple of weeks have gone, and finally getting that W this past weekend in Kingston. Coach, it's been a couple weeks here. You get that win in Kingston. What was that boost for you guys? Because it's been tough sledding here the last little while. The streak that you were on. So just talk about finally getting on the board there in a winning way and with a road win, which was big.
Yeah, I'm excited for our guys. Really, they put the time in. They come to practice. They do the cool down. They do the workouts. They're trying to be pros, right? They're young men trying to be pros, and for them to get a win, it's just what I told them in there. We're trying to get 1% better every day, and it'll add up to 10 to 15 by the time we're done. But we're going to have some hills we have to climb. But for them to get that, I'm so happy for them.
And something that's been big, despite the results not being there, is the goaltending. You've gotten great performances from Rhodes and Swag and even Flores tonight in a losing effort. Can you just talk about giving up a lot of shots, but your goaltenders they give you a lot of confidence back there to be able to come up with those big performances when the guys are struggling in front of them?
Yeah, 100%. That's just my message to them, both of them. When we have meetings, is just to give us a chance to win. And they've done that in spades. They just come out, they put their heart and soul out there, and they make some stops that I go, wow, that's a pretty good stop, But it's not just one; they're making a few of them. So, unfortunately, with the stretch of games we have right now, I think it's 7 games in 11 days, and now we're in 6 and 10. it wears on them. You know, these guys are young men. Some of them are going to school in the mornings, and they're having to deal with all that stuff too, right? They're not pros going home to bed and getting ready. They have some other stuff kind of going around. So, you know, for them to continue to show up and continue to work hard and continue to wear their hearts on their sleeves out there, you know, we're proud as a staff of them.
Is there anybody that's sticking out to you lately that maybe isn't even getting on the score sheet, but you've really seen, a positive turn in their play? Somebody that's really, embracing what you guys are trying to do here and trying to, really take their game to the next level. Is there anybody that really sticks out that you've been impressed with lately?
I would say the whole group. Like I said, just the little things they're doing. Like it's tough to come to the rink right now, that's for sure. But they come in, they smile, and they're ready to absorb kind of what we're teaching them. So for them, I think it's each individual guys finding out how to deal with adversity, right? This might be the first time they really had to deal with adversity as young guys, and as a hockey player. So it's tough for them to process, but like I said, we have to win the little battles and then build from there.
You've coached at the junior level, you've coached at the pro level too. When you're in ruts like this, and teams aren't getting the results, is it a lot of X's and O's that you try to go over with them, or is it more so just trying to the small details, or is it more so just trying to get them in a positive mindset? Like, how do you balance trying to make sure that they're doing the right work on the ice as far as what you're trying to preach, but at the same time trying not to overload them too much and trying not to give them too much of the negative despite that?
Yeah, for sure. They're hockey players. They know when they make a mistake. I don't have to be there and show that clip over and over and over. We might have a conversation about it and revisit it maybe the next day or the day after when maybe they had a chance to process it or watch it themselves. Sometimes they don't realize they make the mistake, right? So it's my job to kind of watch that and put it on their radar. But it's a little easier when you're winning games and things are going in that way. But for the X's and O's, they know what the system we're trying to run, and if they don't, they come and ask questions. That's what I mean. They're engaged. They want to learn. It's mostly being positive and giving them a reason to be at the rink, and we have to have fun. So it's a game, right? It's as much pressure as they're under and we're under. It's a game, and if they're having fun, they're going to work harder, I believe.
And last question, you got a big stretch of home games coming up. Does that give you guys confidence knowing that you're going to be in your own bed, you're going to be playing in front of your home crowd, giving you that boost and that energy that you need? Is there, do you guys look at that, say for the next 6 games at home? Do you guys even look at that at all? Or how do you kind of balance that, when you're on a long road trip or you're on a long home stand?
Yeah, well, anytime you're at home for a little bit of a stand, it bodes well for your guys because they're in familiar territory. The meals are good and what they like. It's not on the road where sometimes they're not eating what they should, or they're eating too much of pizzas or something, whatever, right? So but they're young guys too. They gotta enjoy the food. They're not gonna have gourmet food all the time. They're young men. So having the home games definitely I think gonna help us. They're just gonna be like I said, it's familiar grounds here. Little things we just got to keep working on.
Head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Ryan Kuwabara, thanks so much for doing this. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Ryan.
Kyle, good thoughts there from the head coach as always. Takeaways from what Coach K had to say.
It's a lot of good things, right? Not to, even when you're in a rut, I love the fact that he says that he doesn't have to go to to most of the players and tell them about the mistakes and how they can fix their mistakes. They're hockey players. They know what they did wrong. And that, he said some of them are already watching tape back or already understanding of what they did wrong, what they have to do to adjust themselves. It's the little things of, coaching these players and developing these players in a less stressful way, especially when your team is in the position that it's in, right? You can probably do that if they're on a winning streak and they're making costly mistakes that they're not, they're in a better position. If the IceDogs are in in second or third place is the way I'm talking here. And they're used to stick to a formula of how they're winning games. And, they run into ruts where they're making costly mistakes. That's kind of not what they're used to. It's different from what the team is doing now. The team's in last place now. The team is getting some of these crushing defeats. I'm glad that Kuwabara is now taking that and saying, how am I going to help these players when they're already at the frustration point with how the team's doing now, is slightly coaching them and slightly progressing them, because he knows that they're pros and they're hockey players and they know what they did, but at the same time still doing it in a I guess, a less angry way or a less pushy way than you would at other times. So a lot of good thoughts from Ryan Kuwabara there. And, obviously when you have a homestand coming up, it's easier to prepare for games like that when you're not traveling on the bus, whether it be like a 3-game road trip, right? It's really tough to do that, right? But that's the life of a hockey player. But obviously with the homestand coming up, you can't complain about that, especially like 3 or 4 games coming up at home.
Yeah, I mean, tonight they're in Mississauga, but other than that, the next 3 games...
It's not even really far either. So.
No, and then they've got the home game against Sudbury on Sunday. They're at Oshawa for that family day game, and then they're at home again on the weekend. So they've got a lot of opportunity here to pick up some points on home ice, which is always a plus, like you said, sleeping in your own bed and things like that. But I like Ryan Kuwabara's constructive way of going about it.
Yeah,
and he's not going to berate.
That's the word I was looking for.
He's not going to berate these kids. Like it's not. I don't think in the spot that they're in, it's not going to help them. So, again, he's trying to work on certain things. It's not perfect yet by any means. It's not sit here and say, it's things are going great. But the things that he's trying to do, he tries to get 1% better, as he said, every single week and every single game with the players. So it's going to take time, and hopefully, his plan will come to fruition as we move into next season, and we'll really start to see, this team play the right way. And really, over this last stretch, only the Hamilton game, probably in the last 2 months, is the only game that I can really say that they, really just didn't have it from start to finish. To me, that was the only game that I've seen under Ryan Kuwabara that this team really didn't have an effort. They've always shown an effort and a compete level in every single game, despite being heavily outmanned, heavily outshot, and overmatched by certain loaded teams. Like, this team always goes out there and gives a great effort, and that's thanks to some of the players that they've acquired from other great programs. And they're just trying to change that culture here. That slacking off is not going to be acceptable on this team.
Yeah, and you said it best there. Like, they, at least through these games, they're showing that. They're at least competing with the teams, right? Like I said in the beginning of the show, they showed definitely last night. They played from start to finish. It's just going to be tough when they run into these good teams, but at least they're like not, lying in their backs and taking it, right? It's just, there's the compete level is still there, and that's a really good sign.
Exactly. So to end off the show today, guys, I've been teasing it all show. Head scout Adam Henrich in his discussion with Ted Lehman of Country 89 last week, talking about the upcoming OHL draft and talking about Kevin He and his development and what he thinks he's going to turn into. So former NHL prospect, draft pick, and former AHL player Adam Henrich, now the head scout of the Niagara IceDogs, and some great insight from him. So here he is, the head scout of the Niagara IceDogs, Adam Henrich, and we'll come back and we'll kind of wrap up the show.
With us here, the sky's the limit, right? We're starting at the base, and now we're building, right? And it starts with this draft. Darren is an amazing owner, an amazing general manager. He has a great supporting cast. I mean, that guy wears his heart in his sleeve, right? And that's the most important thing. Like, he literally, day and night, doesn't sleep for this team, right? And he tries to make the proper decisions, everything he can to better this team. And it's not easy at times. Listen, I just took over an organization. I'm rebuilding it too, right? And, and we understand how important this draft class is and what the picks we have. And, myself and the scouts, we need to really, really focus in on, hey, because, listen, I don't want to say it, but, if we have 5 or 4 or 3, we have 2 players that can turn this thing around.
Just for the heck of it, I knew I was talking to you. Top 18 rookie scorers in the OHL. Only 8 of them are 16 years old. 5 are 17-year-olds, and 5 of them got taken after the first round, including Kevin He. And Adam, how proud are you of Kevin He?
So I'm very proud. I don't know if anybody knows, but I was the coach of the 2006 North Rangers. I took that age group all the way up, and then once they were done, I sort of moved on to do other things. This year, I had 15 players drafted for my team. I have six 16-year-olds playing in the OHL this year. Kevin, to me, this kid's a special player. Okay, this kid oozes with character. When I recruited him away for my AAA. I don't think somebody knows how close I am with him. He was 13 years old, playing on the Junior Canadians in AAA. I coached against him, and I was on the Toronto Red Wings, and we had we had Walton Brown, other 16-year-olds playing in the OHL this year. And I'm like, I need that kid. And I did everything I can to recruit him. I ended up bringing him over to my team. So I coached Kevin for the last 3 years of minor hockey. His character, the laser focus on him, the willingness to want the puck, to want to make it. But like forget that. As a human being, I've never met somebody at his age so mature and respectable. And that's what makes it special. And I think every time I think about Kevin, he's one of those guys that's like, it doesn't matter what he's going to have to do, he's going to make it. That's what's in his head. Nothing is stopping him, right? Nothing's stopping Kevin from wanting the puck. Nothing's stopping him. And you see, he comes in. A lot of guys at 16 are coming in, and having that confidence right away. He had it right from the get-go.
Multilingual, and he went, yeah. So listen, as you get ready for this one, and how big's the scouting staff again? Remind me.
So we have, I'll go quickly because I want to pay credit to everybody. Dave Robertson from Ottawa, so awesome. He's doing the Peterborough, Clarington area. We got Andrew Fritz, who's awesome. He's helping out all around. You got Greg Capillero. He is helping the U.S., also the Niagara region area. You got Brian Jury's helping out sort of the, I would say from the Windsor to Brantford, right? So then, Darren's around Western, and I'm sort of directing all of them. I do the GPHL as well. So we have a good staff. These guys are awesome. They work their tail off. I can tell you right now, at the process team, we had 5 of them there. They all wanted to go. He's just going to get everyone a ticket. So they're very committed. We talk daily in a group chat. We understand the ramifications of this draft. We understand how important it is for the city and the organization.
Well, let's talk about that for a sec, because you've got, like I said, 6 of the top 80 are going to be potential IceDogs draft picks. For the fans that are looking for this one question to be answered, Adam, how deep a draft is this 2023 draft coming up?
Okay, so I'm going to explain it like the NHL. I was listening to Dan Marr last night at the NHL Top Process game, and he said it best for the 05 age group. And this is sort of the same with 07. You have your top 7 or 8 to 10, and then you have like amazing players from 15 to 40. So when you say deep, it means there's a lot of good players, but there's not a lot of like superstars. But there's good players. Whereas the 06 age group, like you said, I thought it was a very strong age group. You're not going to see every year 10 06s or NAs come in and put up over almost a point a game. It's unheard of in this league. So, I think with this, it shows like, hey, we're lucky because we're going to get one of those elite superstars, right? Potentially. And then we're going to get another guy or 2 players in the second and third who could be a point-a-game consistent player if we do it the right way, even a potential goalie, right? So that's what I'm saying here. We have potential to get 2 superstars and another grade A prospect and potentially grade A goalie, if not another grade A D or 4 prospect. So you have 4 players here which literally can turn this organization around in 2 years. And you got a guy like Kevin He, who right now, I'll go on the record, he's going to score 50 goals and get 100 points a year in this league. Okay, and I said that he should have been a top 10 pick last year if he didn't hurt his shoulder. And I called every team to push for him. When Niagara took him, and Darren was smart, and I knew he was going to go do it. I was like, this is the best draft pick. And so with a guy like that, this team is going to make a run, and we're going to bring the right players in. We're not bringing guys in who are here wants trades or this or that. If it gets tough, we're bringing good hockey players in, good families, good character. So you're in the battle with us, and you want to be here, and we're going until the end.
You not only got a chance to kind of make this IceDogs team better, but you talk about development. And all the draft picks coming up, I mean, it's got to seem like Christmas for you and your scouting staff.
It is. It's funny because a lot of guys at the rink, like, they call me nickname Teddy when I play, but they're like, you have your hands full. You have a lot of pressure on you. I said, listen, it's exciting, right? Like, I think from that perspective, we're lucky, and where we are as an organization, to combine that, it's unheard of. right? So it's almost like we can't make a mistake here.
Well, Adam Henrich, IceDogs head scout. You'll be great when you get more positive, by the way. Thanks for doing this. We're going to talk more. We'll track you down as the draft comes up closer, because when all the names start getting bandied about, and then we'll have some fun with that too. But, you're always on the road, and you took time. And Adam, thanks for doing this.
Thank you. And anytime, and good luck the rest of the way.
Wow, Kyle. Great thoughts there from IceDogs head scout Adam Henrich. A couple of billboard material quotes there. I'll quickly go over as referring to Kevin He. I've never met someone at his age so mature and respectful, and he's going to score 50 goals and 100 points. He should have been a top 10 pick if he didn't hurt his shoulder. Just, wow, that's pretty high praise from somebody of his stature.
The beginning of that, we know. We just talked to Kevin last night after the game, so he is a very mature player for his age and really mature spoken player. So he's ahead in that category. But 50 goals, 100 points. I mean, I don't want to be the one to agree with him, but I think he has potential. I'll say maybe he's got potential to do that. Will he do it next year? I don't know. He could, but I guess we can spin it around in a way that the way he's developing, the way he's shown glimpses this year in his rookie campaign of how good he can really be, that's probably where that comes into it. And he sees what we see as well, Brand, is that his potential level to grow for the rest of this year and through the offseason, he has the potential to be a very, very, very good player in this league and a player that can be dominant on the score sheet. And I think he will get to that point. I'm not going to say how many goals he's going to score, but I would love to. I mean, anyone would love 50 goals and 100 points. Hell yeah, sign me up for that any day. But Kevin Heed, high praise from him. And again, that's not the first time that I've heard from someone that Kevin Heed should have gone earlier in the first round. I haven't heard that he should have gone the top 10, but you look at his development so far, he's proven that he should have been at least a top first round pick. And the fact that we got him in the second round is proven that he was a steal of the draft. At least one of them.
Yeah. But again, just really good thoughts there from the IceDogs head scout. And again, he seems really enthused because it's kind of like Ted said, it's Christmas for him, being able to have so many picks and be able to really use that scouting expertise to draft in a lot of players and to really build the cupboards here and your core players moving forward for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
You got the insight there. You said the top 40 basically this year are filled with really good players. There's like the elite status in like the first echelon of the first round, and it's like all the way up to the 40 mark, 15 to 40 are really good players. IceDogs have 6 picks in the top 80?
Yeah.
Or 6 or more picks. So like we're going to get the restock of really, really good players. So to want to be excited for this team for the future, guys, if it all works out, the IceDogs are going to have a very, very good team that was built through the draft, as what Darren said in his earlier interviews, that he wants to build this team out of the draft, and they're going to do it. They have the scouting staff in place now. He mentioned in all the scouting around the Ontario and around Ontario that are doing their due diligence and scouting a lot of these players for this upcoming draft. There's something you want to get excited for is this coming draft for the IceDogs. It's going to be one big draft for them.
Yeah, and Adam Henrich sounds like a pretty interesting guy. I'd love to have him on the show with us either
100%.
after the draft or something like that to kind of recap things. As Ted said, he needs to get a little bit more optimistic. He might be one of the more optimistic people I've ever heard on a phone interview. So really good thoughts there from Adam Henrich, and hopefully we'll hear more from him moving forward as the head scout for the Niagara IceDogs. But to wrap up the show today, Kyle, we're going to kind of look ahead here, but we got some news about a hiring today, and I'll put the graphic on the screen, and I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, so the IceDogs, it was announced, we heard last night, but it was announced officially today. Niagara IceDogs hire Evan McGrath for a player development role. So a lot of people that are knowing of the NHL will hear that name with familiarity, especially even on Ontario. The Niagara IceDogs have hired Evan McGrath for a player development role. Longtime OHL fans will recognize him, drafted in the first round by the Kitchener Rangers in the 2002 OHL priority selection. Evan went on to play 4 seasons with the Rangers, winning a Memorial Cup in 2003 and making the playoffs every year he played with the franchise. He was ranked 4th overall in all-time points Kitchener Rangers in history right now. The Oakville native was part of the CHL Top Prospects game and OHL All-Star game multiple times. Evan was also part of the Canadian under 18 team in the World Junior Challenge in 2003-2004. Most notably, Evan is a 2004 NHL draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings. He went 4th round, 128th overall by the Detroit Red Wings, later signed with the club as well. He's a former centerman that went on to play 13 successful professional career years, starting with the AHL and eventually venturing off to Europe, where he played in Europe. He's currently living in Niagara Falls, and he'll be joining the IceDogs operations team as, again, player development role. So, welcome, Evan, to the Dog Pound, and I can't wait to talk to you at the rink and see what you got in store for these players. So I think that was a pretty good hiring, I think, by the IceDogs, especially getting a former pro, a former decorated OHL player, and a former NHL draft pick to come into a development role.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of experience too playing in Europe, so he knows the ebbs and flows of a hockey career. He had his highs with Kitchener, over 100 points in the season, winning a Memorial Cup, and then going through the grind of a professional hockey career. So he really knows and can show these kids that they can relate to him because he's been in their shoes before, and he knows, you know, what it's going to take for them to become pros someday. So that's what you want from player development coach, somebody that has such a vast experience in the game of hockey, and I think they've got that here with Evan McGrath.
100%.
So, Kyle, tonight we're in Mississauga. Should be a sold-out crowd there at the, I don't even know what they call it, the Paramount Fine Food Center, and then we're back at home on Sunday for Akil Thomas jersey night with his designed jersey for Black History Month with Zale, so that should be really exciting there. And then Oshawa on the Monday for the Family Day afternoon game. So, again, these are some winnable games for the IceDogs. Again, a divisional opponent, and then they play two divisional opponents, Sudbury and Mississauga, and then Oshawa, who's battling for that last playoff spot. So if you're the IceDogs, you're wanting to pull out, you know, some points out of these next 3 games.
Play spoiler. I mean, you're also building for next year. You're building morale with the team. You're trying to get out of a funk. Again, they're not mathematically eliminated, but at this point, you're playing still for the win. You're not, no matter where you are in the standings, you're always playing for the win. And again, like you just said, there are some winnable games coming up here for the IceDogs, and can really turn their end of season around with 17 games remaining in the regular season.
Yeah, who's somebody that's catching your eye that you want a big performance from? I got the player stats up on the board. Again, Daniel Michaud, Zachary Lavoie, Alex Asadorian's been fantastic. Juan Copeland scored last night, so that was good for him to get the monkey off the back. He even did the celebration after. So, like, who are you expecting a big performance from this week?
I think the notable names will still perform at best. I think we're seeing glimpses of Declan Waddick once in a while, like here and there, pull out some good stuff.
Who should be back this week, by the way.
Yes, and it's Alex Asadorian, I think, who's really shown ever since coming here. He and I said the firecracker line. He's like the igniter for the firecracker line. He had that one really good one-timer last night that he was absolutely robbed by the Barrie Colts goaltender. But you look at his style line ever since coming to Niagara, he's looked very, very promising, and I'm looking forward to just seeing him build upon that and build into next year.
So with that said, guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode and our relaunch of the Dog Pound podcast here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. For Kyle Lakett, my name is Brandon Caputo. Make sure you're following us at Dog Pound Podcast and all of our social media content there. Make sure you're giving us some love on YouTube and in audio form if you're listening to us on demand. Until next week, bark, bark, bark. Go Dogs, go. And we'll talk to you guys again next week. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.